No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all of those joining us live here on the Illegal Curve post-game show, good evening to you and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. I'm today's host, Dave Manouk, and that is not either Ezra Ginsburg or Drew Mandel. That is the hockey historian himself, Joe Piscucci. Joe, how are you today?
I'm very good. And for those of you that follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I am the Illegal Curve designated import. when they don't want to be a part of the post-game show, they call me up.
Well, we're thankful that we've gone to the well already 2 weeks in a row. It's early in the season, but already you've obliged us with two appearances here on the Illegal Curve postgame show.
And I'm so happy because this is the first postgame show I've done in which the Jets have won. So well, that's great. So we can be positive tonight. Not too many names.
Manouk and Piscucci is a good postgame show name. So maybe that's the winning combination, Joe.
All right, age before beauty, Piscucci and Manouk.
Fair enough. Look, it was a good homestand for the Winnipeg Jets. Obviously, they go 4-1-0 in the 5 games. Obviously, only losing to the Dallas Stars last week, which is of course the post-game show that you did with Ezzy. And they continue to pile the points up. Right? We always talk about banking points and how important it is early in the season to do that. Well, they're right in amongst the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche for top spot in the Central. Those two teams are doing battle. I believe that last I heard was Dallas had a commanding 3-0 lead. I don't know if I haven't checked the score since the second intermission of the Jets game, but the fact is that those two teams were doing battle tonight. And if the score ends the way it does, then it looks like the Jets will probably be in second behind the Dallas Stars and ahead of the Colorado Avalanche. So, Joe, I mean, especially given the fact that the Jets are coming off a game last night. Of course, it's a home back-to-back, so they didn't have to travel. They didn't have to stay in another hotel and check in and all that stuff. They got to go home last night, and but still, it's still a back-to-back. Arizona's fresh. They were in Winnipeg yesterday watching the game, so they did what they needed to do, which is pick up another 2 points and put it in the bank.
Yeah, and we saw what they needed to do in the third period. That was ice the puck. Over and over and over. I thought they were trying for a league record there at one point in that third period with all the icings. But yeah, you could tell they were very fatigued, a lot of them, but they got the job done, which is the most important thing. They got the job done. They really did, I thought, a good job of containing Arizona tonight. I mean, there were, a few, like maybe 3 or maybe 4 times where the Coyotes really controlled the puck in the Jets' end, and were circling and doing all that and were dominating. But, other than the goals, I didn't see that Brossoit was under too much pressure tonight. So I think the defense did a good job and the forwards did a good job of, boxing out the shots by the Coyotes tonight. So I all in all, I thought it was a good performance by a very tired, Winnipeg Jets team, and good on them.
Well, and there was some question marks as to the lineup and how it was going to look today. We learned just before, I think it was during the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, which felt like 40 hours ago, but it was about 12 hours ago when it got underway here on our YouTube channel. And we were talking about Dominic Toninato being recalled by the team on an emergency basis. So he joins Axel Jonsson-Fjällby with that status on an emergency loan. But to me, it was, well, what's the question mark? And we never really got an answer in terms of why Toninato was recalled, who was potentially he was going to be injected into the lineup for. I asked when I was in the press box, in the first period, because I wasn't we were doing the show, so we didn't get a chance to be at the limited, or it was very limited optional morning skate. And when I asked some of the guys who were there, everybody said we weren't informed as to what. No surprise, of course.
Of course.
So Toninato took the warm up. He of course didn't play, and then there were some question marks as to whether Logan Stanley would play his second game in a row, or whether they would go back to Nate Schmidt. And of course, when the warm-up gets underway, Nate Schmidt is the one who's back in the lineup and not Logan Stanley. So And we talked about that a little bit on the show, just that idea of it seems like it may be a bit of a rotating wheel there between those two guys.
And, and obviously there's a discrepancy in the amount of money that both of them are being paid, but I don't mind, that I'd like to see Logan Stanley play more. And I think, they can't have defensemen, going 30 games without being on the ice, but you're not taking out Pionk. You're not taking out Dylan. You're definitely not taking out Morrissey. You're not taking out DeMello. Right. And you're not taking out Sandberg. So there's only one player. And unfortunately, that's Nate Schmidt. He did have his struggles, but I've sensed that he's played a lot better this season, barring that first game when he did the icing in the Calgary game.
Yeah.
I haven't had too much criticism of his game. And if he has to be the one that's sort of in and out of the lineup, then, so be it. But I mean, it wouldn't be too bad to give DeMello a rest at some point. I thought tonight DeMello, made some bad free pizza passes, especially in the first period there.
Yeah, I would agree. I thought that there was a little bit of an AHL element, and I think that's part of the tiredness of the team, because in the AHL we see it a lot. Passes are behind guys, and it kills momentum. And I thought that was what we saw, especially throughout the course of this game from the Jets, where there were a lot of plays that died because they just didn't hit the guys where they were going to be. They were trying to get it to where they were. And so it was dying on the vine, and guys just weren't able to build any momentum through the neutral. And it just kind of killed, a lot of the transition game that the Jets wanted. But again, you're understanding that, they played last night, and it was a relatively tough game on them because Buffalo possessed the puck. Buffalo was the better of the two teams. And, but for Connor Hellebuck's Hellebuckian performance last night, they probably don't win that game. They didn't need that out of Laurent Brossoit. But look, I mean, Arizona, we talked about it on this morning show, Joe. Arizona's a good team. They're not, they're right behind the Jets. So it's an important win. You get the 4 points, or 4-point swap, I should say. But it's an important win against a team that was just behind you in the standings. And again, like I said, you put a little bit of distance between yourselves and them.
And, I like the start by the Jets. And I thought Lowry line first shift, they just dominated. It seemed like for a full minute, that puck was inside the Coyotes zone. And all of a sudden, that's when DeMello made his free pizza pass right after that. And that kind of swung everything, in the Coyotes' favor there for a little bit, and I like the Coyotes had their moments, but the Jets had more moments, I thought, tonight. And definitely the better team, the more opportunistic team. That was a great play. We're going to talk about Connor's goal. And the goal preceding that by the Coyotes, because he's involved in both of them.
Well, he just likes to be involved, Joe. He likes to be on the stat sheet one way or the other. Sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive. A lot of times it's positive, but sometimes it's negative.
Yeah.
And you know what? If we're going to start we're not going to start the Betway game recap just yet, because this happened pre-game, but we have to talk about it because Who's Silly is the best anthem that you're going to hear. And I honestly, it's amazing when you go to the game and you're sitting there and you listen to these guys and the power of their voices. It's remarkable to hear the reaction from the crowd, the players. You can see them. It's just the passion is evident in the way these guys sing. And they do a remarkable job. And it's not the first time, it's not the second time, it's probably not the 10th time I've seen these guys sing the anthems, Joe, live. But I got to tell you, each and every single time, it's a treat to hear these guys belt it out the way they do, get the crowd going, and just like I said, it's a unique experience that we have the benefit of seeing here in Winnipeg.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm like 2,400 miles away, so I don't get to experience it firsthand like you do. But that it's great. You need it. Sometimes you do need a good anthem to get the crowd charged up,
right?
And sometimes even the players. And maybe that was the factor in the way that Lowry line started, because like I said, they came out flying, and Niederreiter almost had a goal on that first shift, but his shot was blocked by Moser because he had the goaltender definitely out of position on that one.
Well, and Joe, that's a good point. Maybe they use the power from that's the anthem to get them going. But yeah, it was just phenomenal, and it was a good start for Winnipeg. And we'll get into it. We'll start talking about the Betway game recap, brought to you by our friends at Betway.
the Betway game recap.
Joe, it wasn't the beginning that the Jets wanted because, of course, it was the Arizona Coyotes who would open the scoring. It would take a little bit of time, of course, and it was one of those interesting sort of quirks because it was such a slow period. Like it was sleepy almost to put it mildly in the first. I was like, Jets have one shot. The Coyotes had one shot. And then it was just like, what's going on here? And then, it was just negligible. And I thought, this is going to be the most boring game if this pace continues, because it really was just there wasn't that energy and there wasn't a buzz. And I was just kind of like, maybe everybody was busy. And I'm not going to go on a rant about the Christmas parade being at the exact same time, basically, as the Jets game and making traffic a complete nightmare. I'm not going to go on a rant, Joe. I won't go on a rant. But let's
just say, Winnipegger complaining about traffic. Wow. How unusual.
No, I know. But it's not even the traffic. I'm just complaining about how bad other Winnipeg drivers are and how indecisive they are. But regardless, I got a good parking spot, so I was happy. Thanks to our friends at Grid Park. But regardless, the fact is that, I just don't understand the same time factor of the parade. It was just a little difficult. It made for some chaos, but regardless, it eventually got going. And like I said, it was just a sleepy start to the game, I thought, for both teams, because there just wasn't a lot created. Like you said, there was that opening shift, but then it kind of got into a lull, and really it just didn't get going until Arizona opened the scoring at the what was that? Hold on, let me just find out. The 14:53 mark.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, and again, that was a bit of a breakdown from the Jets. A lot of guys were standing around, and Matthias Maselli, no relation to Tony Maselli from Who's the Boss, I would presume. But Matthias Maselli makes the 1-0 goal, and just kind of, like I said, takes advantage of the inattention to detail by the Winnipeg Jets.
And, and I don't think there was a shot on goal for like the first 5 minutes. And you're, in that game, and you're right, it was sleepy at times, and it needed something. As a Jets fan, you don't want it to be a Coyotes goal. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately it was, but it may have served as kind of a wake-up call, let's say, for the Jets, because they certainly did respond afterwards, right? And they tightened up their game. Again, the Lowry line supplied it with another good shift. I think that got the Jets back into the rhythm, and the 2 goals followed shortly thereafter.
Well, and it's one of those things we've talked about, and we're not going to break down Niederreiter and what he's been able to do for that third line, but just you highlighted him earlier in the show when we started, just talking about what he was able to bring, and it's amazing how many times in a game you just have an appreciation for what this guy does. And as he was talking about it on this morning show, Joe, the fact that the Jets got him for a 2nd-round pick and with a year on his deal, and it sounds like he wants to, as reported by Scott Billick of the Winnipeg Sun, wants to stick around in Winnipeg. To me, this guy is just so essential for, and look, right now we see him on the third line, and we, that we'll talk about that third line, obviously, because they had some good things happen for them throughout the course of this game. But to me, he really does make this team tick. And if you threw him up on the second line, I don't think the second line misses a beat. I think he improves them. He just seems to do that throughout. Wherever he is given an opportunity, he just improves whomever he's playing with.
Right. But there's no need to move him up.
No. I'm not saying you would, but I'm just saying in theory, you could move him, and it wouldn't, I don't think the second, because even, in the game last night, there were instances where the lines were jumbled a little bit, and he was contributing on that. I think he was on for both the Perfetti goal and maybe one other one where he was on with Nemestikov. And so I'm just saying, like, he's just one of those guys who's just, his versatility. It's funny because he labeled Vlad Nemestikov as a Swiss Army knife, but I mean, he's just that guy who's just so quintessential for a third line. I mean, it's not a luxury, but he's just such an effective part of that third line.
But don't the Jets have a number of players that are sort of playing out of position in terms of, if you say their ranking, right? Nemestikov can go either up or down, right? Iafallo can go either up or down. Morgan Barron, I think, he was one of the better Jet players tonight.
Yeah,
he can definitely go up. I think, I thought he was really flying tonight. I wish he could have played more. He had a good sequence on the penalty kill in that second period, and then Iafallo had another on the same penalty kill. Iafallo made a good play. to clear the puck down the ice. So I'd like to see Barron play. So, I mean, I think the Jets lineup is full of guys that can go either up or down the lineup. And it doesn't seem like they get too upset about it either, which may be most important is that nobody gets upset about where they are in the lineup.
Well, and I think that's a good point by you, Joe. And I think it's another example of the depth of this organization, right? We talked about it again on this morning's show, but it was just that it's almost like a good problem to have. But when Gabe Vilardi comes back, where do you put him? Right. And we don't have to go into it because all the people who are currently in the chat spending their Saturday night with us were subjected to that conversation on Saturday morning.
I haven't been able to weigh in. I wanted to weigh in, but at some point you want to weigh into that?
No, I was going to say, but Joe, if you want, you can weigh in now or you can weigh in later. So I was going to say, because they don't need to hear my opinion. I've already talked about it, but you are more than welcome to share your thoughts as to the way the lineup might look when Gabe Vilardi comes in.
When he comes back, he goes to the fourth line because his conditioning is not going to be up to what everybody else's is. Mm-hmm. And you work him onto the second power play, right? And you just give him a little more ice time. Maybe you move him up on a shift, a third or a second line shift. Maybe not third because that line is just too good to tamper with, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe give him a second line shift, once in a while. And there's going to be injuries.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, there's going to be injuries. But, that old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Mm-hmm. Why would you put him on the top line when he comes back? And then you mess with the chemistry that right now that, Scheifele, Connor, and Iafallo have. I know Iafallo may not be scoring the goals, but he's creating them.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, for sure. And again, like I said, but it's such a fun conundrum. It's such a fun exercise. And I think you make a good point. The reality is, as we've been talking about hearing from the staff, he's still a ways away. Everybody got excited because he was on the ice on Wednesday at practice, but that was a skills practice. There was no hitting. There was no chance of collision. And then the next day on Thursday at the Hockey for All Center, when everybody was skating again, Gabe Vilardi was on his own set of ice because, of course, the Jets don't, even if he's in the yellow non-contact, they don't want to risk him having any injury. Now, he was skating, today again, I think they were saying yesterday with Brad Lauer doing some work to get his knee stronger, but you're absolutely right. I mean, the fact is he's still a ways away. So a lot can happen where we know he'll go on the road trip when they leave for Florida on Tuesday. And I guess their game's on Wednesday, but even then they're still just talking about him getting into practice. They're not talking about him playing games yet. So I still suspect we're a ways away from Gabe Vilardi even being, part of that discussion. And again, between now and then, there's still quite a bit of time for, a multitude of again, you don't hope for injuries, but again, that's just the reality of the NHL. I mean, like I said, look at the current situation, right? You've got Rasmus Kupari is out 5 to 7 weeks. So guys go down all the time, and it's just the reality.
Yeah. It's amazing how, let's say, the media looks for things when everything's going well. We got to find something to talk about. Yes, they're winning. We can't, winning is boring when it comes to the media, right?
Well, Joe, it's funny. They're not just winning. They're winning a lot. Like I said, they went 4-1-0 on this homestand, and 6 of their last 7 games they've won. It's been quite a November to remember for these Winnipeg Jets because, like I said, they've really put themselves into that conversation. And again, like a lot of teams, and I know they had a good start last year and they petered off, but we've talked about it. This team seems like it's a different team. And because last year it was Hellebuck. And I'm not saying that, they can't rely on Connor Hellebuck because I think, of course, they will be able to. We saw it last night, and I suspect that's what you're going to see moving forward from him. That's what I think too. But I think it's just a function of now this is a better team. It's a deeper team, and it's a better 5-on-5 team.
Yeah.
So
I've heard that comment that the Jets had a great start last year, and I'm going to disagree with that. I thought they had a terrible start. They won games because of Hellebuck.
I see.
At the beginning, they did not have a good start. Remember, they're on that West Coast trip, and they won those games in LA. They got a point out of Vegas. That was only because of Hellebuck.
Right.
And, and that was the trip that Rick Bowness was not on because of COVID. Right. And when the team came back, he had them all in the meeting and said, okay, guys, like, what's up?
Yeah.
Why are you playing like that?
Yeah.
And then they turned it around and started playing a better team game. And I think that they hit their peak against Pittsburgh I think sometime in December, when they had just a phenomenal game against Pittsburgh. And then after that, never really duplicated that effort for the rest of the season.
Yeah. And you know, as Rick Bowness would say, what's happened in the past is in the past. So we're looking ahead, and we're only looking ahead. And look, we don't have to look that far ahead with the Jets down 1-0 to find them tied 1-1, courtesy of Mark Scheifele, finishing off a real nice play, I thought, by the Jets, you know, the third line that you've talked about, Joe, because they cycled the puck. They had the puck for a good, felt like 30 to 45 seconds in that Arizona zone. And Mark Scheifele switches with Nino Niederreiter, and he ends up finishing off the pass from Neil Pionk. But again, it's exactly, I agree with you. I think something needed to happen in the game, and the Jets got woken up by that Arizona goal.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, like you said, they would have preferred it that they woke up by their own goal, but you could see that they weren't into it. And then Arizona scores. And then shortly thereafter, like I said, just a couple minutes later, you know, Mark Scheifele gets his 6th of the year on a real nice play by that, like I said, that third line. And then, of course, now it's a 1-1 game, and the crowd's into it.
And that was the shift I was referring to, that they'd had that Lowry line had a second good shift in that period, and then everything changed after that. And you're right about you know, Nino going off and Scheifele coming on, right, because they had the puck in there for at least 30 seconds or so.
That's what it felt like, yeah.
Yeah, and it was Lowry who went off, and Scheifele came on the ice. And I was trying to remember that Lowry went off for a change, because the Jets were controlling the puck, and then Scheifele came on, got the pass, and scored there. So, I mean, that was awesome. That's 6th goal of the season. And that was awesome. Good effort all around by the Jets. Good team play, right? Good team play. And then they get a break, less than a minute later.
58 seconds later, Joe, to be precise. If we're going to, we always try and be accurate here on Illegal Curve Hockey, or the Illegal Curve postgame show, which you're currently listening to, Dave Minuk, Joe Pascucci. But, you know, this is one of those plays that, again, this is why you love a player like Vlad Nemesnikov. First of all, never play pool with Vlad Nemesnikov. At least Lawson Krause is never going to play pool with him. But great work behind the net to get the puck away from what's his name? I'm gonna butcher his name. I can never pronounce his name. And see,
Karel Vejmelka.
Vejmelka. Yeah, I know. I it's the Karel part that I always get wrong. But anyways, Karel Vejmelka.
Like a drink at Starbucks, actually. Can I have a Grande Vejmelka?
There you go. But see, usually, Joe, what I do is I kind of like let Drew handle the tough names. I'm like, come on, Drew. Even though I should know that name, the Jets play him every single time. But, you know, it's a real nice play by Nemesnikov to get that puck in from behind the net. And then, of course, you know, just try and put it in front. And I don't know how much he planned to score that goal. Maybe he'll speak after the game and we'll hear. But such a boost for this Jets club to get that second goal and to have a 2-1 lead 58 seconds after the Scheifele goal.
Yeah, and I think that Vermelka maybe my perception was that he got caught with the puck, sort of, oh, do I play it? It's in the trapezoid area, right? So he got caught on that. And I almost thought that Nemesnikov was trying to bank it in off his pads, but missed because it went between his pads.
Right.
Then off, and then Krause did a really nice job of using his skate to direct the puck into the net. I thought that was really good.
Well, and it's funny because you're watching that play and you're thinking to yourself, like, did he intentionally put his foot that way? Because, like, you know, all you're doing is creating more of a surface, not less of one. But I mean, it's a heads up play. You know, he's in deep, he's waiting for reinforcements, and he tries to get it into the front because he knows, you know, that he's got the netminder behind the net with him. So he's got a chance to get it to someone. And, you know, I don't think he intended on thinking, well, I'll bank it in, but ultimately, you know, it's a 2-1 lead and the Jets are feeling good about themselves. And on that play, somewhat notable because he's been picking up, much like Mark Scheifele, he too is piling up the assists this year, but that was Josh Morrissey's 200th assist. So it's a milestone for him. And you know, it's funny, Joe, like I still think about when he was a young draft pick and then young prospect in the organization. And, you know, all the folks who were saying he's a bust, playing on the Moose, playing in St. John's, this guy's a bust. And, you know, what a stud Josh Morrissey's become. Like, you watch his confidence with the puck and the way he can walk the line, the way he like, even when he chooses to, when he attacks and when he does it. And it's just amazing what we're seeing. And, you know, we talked about it at the beginning of the season when we do something called like over under, just to see how guys are going to, you know, achieve, what they will achieve in that sort of thing. And Drew's pretty good at nailing some pretty good numbers and picking tough ones. So as in, I can't sit on the fence, but it was whether you would think Josh Morrissey was going to be able to duplicate or exceed what he was able to do last year. And I was of the opinion that from what I've seen, I expected him to turn that corner and kind of keep that kind of momentum going that he built last year. And he's showing through 17 games that he's not going to slow down with his 2 goals and I think 15 assists or whatever he's got on the season. So, he's just a remarkable player. What have you seen from him throughout the course of the years watching Josh Morrissey develop?
Well, I thought, when he came up, and Dustin Byfuglien took him under his wing, right?
Mhm.
Saying, I want to play with that kid.
Yeah.
Right. And he was doing really, really well. And he was becoming obviously a team leader on defense. And I think the only reason, and this is my opinion, the only reason he took that step back, it was the year that Byfuglien decided to retire.
Right.
Right. And the Jets had lost all their veteran defensemen. Myers had gone off to Vancouver. So they had, I thought that at that point he was trying to do too much.
Mm-hmm.
He took the whole load on his shoulders and he was trying to do too much. And I thought that affected his game, and that, I think that's the only really bad season that he may have had. And like my opinion is that he tried to carry the team on his shoulders and do things that normally he wouldn't try to do.
Right.
But Rick Bowness coming here, giving him all the confidence and say, we want you to get involved in the offense, right? Rick Bowness has given him free reign, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
To use all his offensive talents, right? And he's really delivered. I mean, the only critique I would have of Josh Morrissey is on the power play. I wish he would make those passes to Kyle Connor a little faster and harder. That's the only, because that power play sometimes, like tonight, it's just too deliberate and too slow, right? And he doesn't make that pass over to Kyle Connor as fast as it should be because it allows the goaltender to get over. So that would be my only critique of his game in a negative way. Yeah, otherwise, I think he's playing really well.
Well, and I was going to say, I think actually that's not just a Josh Morrissey thing. A lot of times that power play is a little slow, and sometimes they're just, and again, it's hard to critique guys who are scoring at the rates these guys are scoring at, but every once in a while you're just watching, like even there was a pass by Dylan DeMello over to Mark Scheifele and he hangs on to it for 1 extra second. If he one times it, it's probably, either in the back of the net or it's a good chance. Instead, he tries to steady it and rip it. And then that 1 second allows Vejmelka to get over and make the save as opposed to, really scoring on what really was a high danger chance for the Jets. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. And I agree that, it's one of those situations, but after one period of play, the Jets are up 2-1 and the crowd is feeling good and they're enjoying a little set. The Christmas parade has dissipated. So folks in Winnipeg know they're not going to have to worry about traffic, Joe. That's the excitement. And because let me tell you, there's one thing that you always have to worry about in Winnipeg, especially you'll remember this in the old Winnipeg Arena days, was the ride home and trying to get home. And unfortunately, I was a victim of my dad constantly wanting to leave 5 minutes before the game would end so he could beat traffic. He's like, it's fine. We'll listen to the radio on the way home. And I was like, I don't want to listen to the radio. I want to watch the game. But it didn't matter. We always had to leave. So, and for the record, he parked at the other end. He parked where like Olive Garden was. So we had to whether it was cold, whatever, we always had to walk so far and then we'd book it home. And like, it was, as a young kid, it was a scarring situation, Joe, because I hated having to leave these games early. It was always very destructive.
You're having daddy issues.
I'm gonna call him after. I'm gonna yell at him. I'm like, Dad, what's going on here? Why did you do this? Look what you've done to me. Although now, Joe, I guess he had an impact on me because I leave the Jets games after the second intermission. So I guess
you got to do the show.
I've got to do the show. There's a reason, but I guess now he's worn off on me. So that's not such a bad thing. Anyways, getting to that second period.
Yeah.
Jets are up 2-1. Yeah. Starts off again a little bit, did you notice anything in that start of that second that caught your eye?
The Coyotes had a power play, right?
Right.
Right. And Brossoit made a couple of saves there off Kerfoot and Keller.
Yeah.
Which steadied the ship there. I wrote in my notes, Nate Schmidt free pizza.
Yeah.
followed by Fialbi with another bad decision to make a pass up the middle, right? But then Vermelka, he made some saves on Iafallo and Scheifele right after that. So, I mean, I think the giveaways kind of stopped at that point, I thought, for the Jets, with those kind of like, wow, why are they doing that? Why are you throwing a puck up the middle of the ice? You don't need to, right? And Fialbi, I think sometimes he tries to make things happen that doesn't necessarily need to happen, but then comes the goal by Matt Dumba. You want to give your view of it, or you want me to start with that?
Well, I'll just set you up, and then you can take it away. But to me, again, this is one, and again, I think we were talking about this before we actually got the show rolling, and it's funny because I'm watching this, in the press box, and it's right below, and I'm not even joking. I'm watching Kyle Connor, and I was thinking to myself, folks in Winnipeg have to realize how lucky they are to watch this guy play hockey, because he is phenomenal to watch. He really is. Like, when you watch Kyle Connor offensively, which is what we're going to get to in a second, but when you watch Kyle Connor offensively, he just does things with the puck in tight spaces. It's phenomenal. And again, like I said, watching on TV is fantastic, but watching him live, you just watch the way he does it, and you're like, there's no way he's going to be able to go into a corner with three guys, escape with the puck. He's so slight, but yet he does it, and it's remarkable to me what he's. So I'm thinking about this, and then of course the play goes the other way. But before that happened, and this is one of the things that is important to note, because I think is that Dylan Sandberg had the puck behind the net, and he had the choice to go back the other way or instead go up the wall towards Connor, where Connor was. And the problem was there were other Coyotes there. And so, the issue was that if he goes the other way, the play gets out of the Jets' end, and it's not a big deal. But the problem is he doesn't, or sorry, it stays. I should say, it's not that it goes out of the Jets' end, it stays. And instead, like I said, they're on the wall, and then all of a sudden they're off for the races. And I'm thinking to myself, ooh, I'm glad I didn't send that tweet, Joe, because I'd be ripped, because all of a sudden Kyle Connor's defense, not so good.
Well, it's basically a 2-on-2, right? And so I'm writing as this play is happening. Matt Dumba is going to the net to try and receive the pass, and I'm writing, wow, good back check by Kyle Connor. And as I'm writing that, he slows down, allowing the pass to get through, and Dumba scores to tie it. I was like, what? Why did you slow down? You were doing great. You came back, right? And then that split second of just slowing down allowed for the pass to get to Dumba, and we have a tie hockey game. I mean, no chance for Brossoit there. But, you take the good with the bad sometimes. And okay, that was just a mental mistake. Yeah. We'll give him that, which he made up for.
He did make up for it. There's no doubt. And look, I mean, people are going to, it's funny because when you hear Kyle Connor talk about it, he acknowledges the importance of defensive hockey, but it's still like, while Mark Scheifele has, again, we tend to think of him as someone who's more offensively minded, and yet he's notable in terms of his effort to back check. Again, Kyle Connor, you give him credit. He was doing it. And then all of a sudden, like you said, he's just behind Dumba, and Dumba's, ahead of him. And then suddenly it's a 2-2 game. And you're like, well, that's kind of, are the Jets tired legs, for the people who are listening to the podcast? I just air quoted around the word tired, but are the Jets tired legs catching up to them? Because suddenly now it's a 2-2 game, and the Coyotes look like they have a little life. And again, like I said, this is a young Coyotes team, but it's a good Coyotes team.
Yeah. And there's a lot of, obviously there's the future is bright for them. But it's a team that Jets should beat. Right. And one of the things, we've kind of seen for the most part under Rick Bowness's teams is that, that we didn't see for the most part with Paul Maurice's teams, is that the Jets are beating the teams they're supposed to beat.
Right.
No excuses about the first game back from a road trip anymore. Under Paul Maurice, over the course of his record, of his coaching record in Winnipeg, if there was a homestand of 3 games or longer, right, the Jets were 40% in terms of wins. It was brutal. right? It was just brutal. But that has changed considerably in, the season and a bit that Rick Bowness has been in charge. The Jets are winning, they have these long homestands. They're winning the majority of the games, so that is a very positive change. And as you mentioned off the top of the show, 4-1 on this homestand. It's got them up there with the top teams in the Central Division, right? We're a week away from U.S. Thanksgiving, which is the benchmark, right? How many teams that are below or out of a playoff spot at that point of the season, get into the playoffs. So there's, this team is taking advantage, they're beating the teams that they should.
Yeah.
Right. They're not yet at that stage where they can beat some of those top teams. Right. They're competitive with them, except for the 2 periods of the LA game.
Yeah.
Right? And they're very competitive with them, but they're just missing something right now. They're missing maybe a player or just a break or two, but they're competitive. They put an effort, they work hard. And I think that for most Jets fans, they just want to see a team put out an effort and work hard. And, if you lose, well, it wasn't because you weren't trying. Not game 5 of the Vegas playoff series last year.
Well, what is Rick Bowness always say, Joe? We come up with solutions. We don't make excuses. So that's the new mantra here in Winnipeg under the current bench boss, who of course is away with his wife Judy, and hopefully she's getting better. And right now, Scott Arneal, the associate coach, is steering the ship. Big shout out to 7JP7B who says illegal curve beer is coming to Saskatoon thanks to one of the many shipping options, Joe. I'm getting my icy beer delivered within 3 days. So we thank 7JP7B for working and ordering through our friends at Farmery some illegal curve beer. So that's Joe hasn't tried it yet, I don't believe.
I'm hoping that the 6-pack is my compensation.
I would think that Joe, you've done 2 shows, so we might have to send you a few 6-packs at this point. But yeah, the illegal curve beer. I've got some right here, actually, Joe. If you come to Winnipeg,
I have noticed.
Yes,
I have noticed.
I do need to get a little illegal curve mini fridge though. At one point, maybe put it up there, and we can just it'll nice cold beer. Just pull it out and start drinking it. But look, the Jets are, just so you know, you're listening to the Illegal Curve post game show. I'm Dave Manouk. He is Joe Pascucci, the hockey historian when it comes to Winnipeg sports. Knows that if there's something Jets 1.0 related, Joe, we spent quite a bit of time. Folks loved your clip that you sent us this morning, and if it's Jets 1.0 related, Jets 2.0 related, but specifically Jets 1.0, which warms the hearts of folks like myself who loved those years. You've got those clips, and you've got the mind that remembers those clips, and you send them out on Twitter, and that's why Joe Pascucci is. You can see his X handle is right there. Make sure you're following him because he has a great great resource for folks who want to remember the history of the Jets 1.0. Not everyone who wants to remember that history. Wasn't a lot of winning back in those days, Joe.
I only show the good history. I don't show the bad history.
Well,
all right.
Now we're going to tie this in.
Yeah,
we're going to tie it all in, Joe, because on the next goal, which comes from off the stick of Kyle Connor, and it came just under 5 minutes after Dumba ties the game. Kyle Connor, who else? All he seems to do is score, but he scores, an absolute. I mean, is anybody surprised by what this guy can do? I mean, when he shoots, and I've already sung his praises throughout the course of today, but I mean, again, offensively, what he can do when he shoots that puck the way he does, I mean, there was no chance. And he picks the corner and he puts the Jets up 3-2. And as I said, Joe, it's a historic because that was his 14th goal in 17 games, tying him with a rookie that you, of course, covered named Teemu Selanne. So pretty lofty company whenever you're compared to Teemu Selanne for Kyle Connor scoring, I think, 14 goals in 17 games, which was the quickest to 14 goals. I always love these, by the way, these arbitrary stats.
Well,
it's always like, well, he did this while wearing a brown shirt and he scored it while balancing off his right leg. It's like, wow, that's a great stat. But regardless, he does tie Teemu Selanne, which is notable.
Yeah, and that was a great pass from Mark Scheifele. A great setup from Dylan, who got the puck out.
Yep.
Right. And, as you said, 14 goals, 17 games last year. It took him till his 32nd game to get
Okay.
14 goals. He actually got 2 in that game. So he had 15 in 32 games. And he's on his way. Definitely let's cross our fingers we get another 50 goal score. But on him, he gets an opening, he'll find the net, right?
Yeah.
And it's really good to see. You need a sniper, right? And he's got a player in Iafallo who will get in front of the net and take away the goalie's eye. So some of those shots that weren't getting through last year will get through this year, So he's just a lethal scoring machine. And I kind of get tired when I keep hearing, the broadcast, because I'm living here. I hear a lot of the Toronto sportscasters, right?
Yeah, of course.
Commentators, and they all say about him being, underrated. No, like that might have been 4 years ago. He's not underrated anymore, right? He came out of university as a goal scorer.
Yeah.
Right. He's proved it at the NHL level. Stop saying he's still underrated. No, that's an old cliche.
You just don't pay attention. That's ultimately what it is, right?
Yeah. Well, because before we get into the third period, there was a comment on the broadcast tonight about Cole Perfetti being a polarizing figure on the Jets, and I'm going,
I don't understand.
What?
Like he doesn't pay his parking tickets. Like what does that mean?
Yeah, exactly. What was that all about? Like polar, like, okay, I know I'm 2,400 miles away.
Yeah.
But I try to, you hear all the comments that you guys and, the other shows are doing about the Jets. And like, when did Cole Perfetti become a polarizing figure on this hockey team?
The only thing I can think of, and we'll get back to Kyle Connor in a second, but the only thing I can think of is I know that like Jeff Merrick, who works for Sportsnet, has kind of been like championing the idea that Cole Perfetti is underutilized and isn't getting enough minutes, which again, I don't know here. I'll look at the box score right now to see what his final minutes were, but that could be the only thing. And again, it's ironic because the only people who seem to care about that are folks in Toronto, and who cares about them? But
Exactly.
he played 14 minutes and 13 seconds. Again, it wasn't the most, it wasn't the least. The Morgan Barron line they played, David Gustafson played the least at 7:49. Cole Perfetti, was a little bit less than his line mates, and Vlad Nemeskov played 16. Cole Perfetti played 14-13, and Nikolai Ehlers played 15-32. So, I mean, it's back-to-back. It's not a huge surprise, tight game.
And they didn't get that many power plays tonight either.
They didn't get that many. I think, they didn't play that much on the power play. And like, again, that's the only thing I can think of when they say polarizing, I don't even think it's the right word, to be honest with you. It wouldn't be, I don't think he's polarizing. I suspect that would be the only thing I would think of as someone who hears what the folks outside this market are saying about about the team in this market. That would be the only thing I've heard, is that you guys like Jeff Merrick are complaining about like Cole Perfetti's minutes. But I mean, with all due respect to Jeff, I don't know how many people care what he thinks about Cole Perfetti's minutes. And I don't, and again, I'm not going to malign our friend Harner Ryan Singh, who was doing the broadcast today.
Oh, no, I didn't say that he said it.
Oh, okay. Maybe then it would be Sam Constantino.
Broadcast.
Well, it's either Sam or Hunter Ryan, Joe. But
I guess you figured it out by now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, like I said, I don't know where he's getting that info, but it's not. I don't think it's a sentiment, and I think you said it earlier, and I think it's true. I don't think that you have a lot of guys on this team, and it's hard too, right? Hockey's a team game. How do you complain when you're having success? First of all, Cole Perfetti has 5 goals in 5 straight, up until today, his streak comes to an end. He had 5 straight games with a goal. He never did that in the AHL. His best streak in the AHL was 3 games. I think he scored 4 in 3, but he never had a streak where he scored more goals than that. And he gets a 5-game streak here in Winnipeg. But again, like I said, maybe I'm wrong, but my suspicion would be that it's ice time related. And that's, again, I think that's something that's created outside the 204, the 431 area codes. I don't know how many folks are within the province are too worried about that. But that would be my conjecture, Joe, as to what that what was the word you used? controversy, polarization.
Polarizing figure.
Yeah, maybe we'll jump on.
Was the exact term.
Well, you know what?
That got me jumping out of my seat when I heard that. Like, what?
Oh, well, you might not want to reveal who it was, but the chat is telling us who it was. And again, we can ask him what he was saying. Jets are not skating tomorrow, of course, a day off after 2 straight wins, and they're going to be off tomorrow and probably resuming skate on Monday, following a big win over the Coyotes. But again, maybe I'll ask Cole Perfetti. I'll be like, Cole, do you think you're a polarizing figure? Maybe I will ask him directly, but he'll probably look at me and go, how did you get in here? And then he'll ask, what the hell are you talking about? So
exactly. Yeah.
Again,
with all the success that he's had of late, right? The best thing for him was not having him at center.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Moving Nemestikov in there has made for a solid second line. Ehlers, because of the training camp, the injury, right? Mm-hmm. His game is coming around.
Yeah.
Right. And when he's flying up and down the ice, he's got to get out there more. Mm-hmm. Right. When Nikolai is having a bad game is when he makes those free pizza passes into the middle of the ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he wasn't doing that last night or tonight. I didn't see much of last night's game because I was in Hamilton for trying to partake in the Grey Cup festivities.
Well, we'll get into that at the end of the show, of course. But, yes. But yeah, no, I mean, look, you can see Ehlers is coming around. And again, guys, people tend to forget. That's why when we malign, and specifically Drew tends to malign exhibition games, but it's true. They're important. They really are. And I've talked to guys, whether it's young prospects who tell me, who are with the Moose, but they say how important it was for them to get a taste of the NHL and that putting on a Jets jersey, even if it's just for an exhibition game, or you talk to the guys who actually, need to get their conditioning up. And there's only so much. Like I said, I talked to Declan Chisholm this week, now that he's down with the Moose after the games against Laval, and the Moose are on a bit of a skid right now. But I talked to him about how, and he said, like, nothing, you can bag skate all you want, but nothing is going to recreate a game. Mm-hmm. So he's played 4 games now for the Moose after not playing for the last 6 weeks with the Jets. His last game, I think, was a preseason game sometime at the end of September. So, I mean, now he's played 4 games in a week. He's going to play another game tomorrow. And so anyways, that's just that idea of conditioning. And to your point about Nikolai Ehlers, that's just what these guys need. They needed to get into the games. He needed to get that timing down. And you do seem, again, he seems to be more himself. And you're right. You want to see some more shots. You want to see some more success on the power play. But overall, he seems to be, sniping a little bit more than he was before.
Yeah, he's found a rhythm. He's found a rhythm out there.
Absolutely.
And that's obviously good for this hockey team when he's like that.
There's no question about it. And it's interesting to me that like the way this team is standing up for each other. And again, this was I think there was about 2 or 3 minutes left in the period when Brendan Dillon drops the gloves with Liam O'Brien, and O'Brien's a tough character. He can throw them with the best of them. And Brendan Dillon, I mean, again, we're talking offensive defenseman Brendan Dillon too. He didn't get any goals today, but he had 2 more assists in the game. And you just got to see that. You got to know that this team, he's standing up. Again, my speculation, I was talking to Jimmy Toth about this because I heard them talking about it on the intermission, but why did that happen? And my conjecture, and we were talking about it a little bit in the press box, was because he was stepping up for those guys going after Dylan Samberg, and he was chirping, and he was pissed, and he basically dropped the gloves. And again, you don't have to love fighting. It's your prerogative, not your prerogative, whatever you choose. But the fans and the team really reacted to him stepping up for Samberg and kind of standing up for his teammate the way he did. And you could hear the reaction, from the Winnipeg crowd.
Yeah. Well, and it is good. I mean, you need to know that your teammates have your back, right?
Yeah.
That if, I do remember an incident in the 1.0 days.
Yeah.
I think, cause it was, Wendell Clark had hit one of the Russian jets. Yeah. Right.
Sergei Harin?
No, I think it was Boughton. Right.
Oh, Sergei Boughton.
I think he like for no reason, like he didn't have the puck, right? He just hit him and knocked him down, right? And Ty standing right beside Wendell and going like this. Why'd you do that for? right? Because
Yeah.
Ty wasn't going to fight Wendell,
Yeah, of course.
right? So these Jets, somebody would have stepped up,
Hmm.
and you need that. You need to know that this is a team, right? And we've heard Rick Bowness say that you pick on one of us, right? We're all gonna,
Yeah, that family
fight
app,
back.
the idea that everybody is family.
Yeah. And I guess the fact they've gotten certain players, and I'm not pointing my finger at Blake Wheeler, they got a certain player out of here
Yeah,
that had one foot out the door,
yeah.
right? And the return has been fantastic. And I think that certainly changed the atmosphere of this hockey club. And it's great to see.
Yeah,
It is
no, I
great
mean,
to see.
there's no question about, again, the dynamic has changed so much, whether it's Adam Lowry as the captain or just it feels, and again, like I said, like I've been in the room a lot more this year than I was last year, but
Mhm.
it just feels like it's funny because the core is largely the same, but it's just interesting to see how um, much, I don't know. There's just, it seems like there's a weight off the shoulders of
Yeah.
this group. And I'm not saying none of these guys would point the Wheeler and say it's his fault that, whatever, because it's not just based on one guy. And you can say whatever you want about Wheeler, but he definitely left it all out there on
Yeah,
the
he
ice.
did.
What he did off the ice, I'm not so sure about that, but am I freezing or is Joe freezing?
No, you're freezing. On my end, you're freezing. So it's a good look for you, though. Oh. Well, now I guess I'm now the host of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show while Dave tries to get back online. You are listening, and for some of you, you are watching the Illegal Curve post-game show. The Jets over the Coyotes tonight by a score of 5-2. Kyle Connor, the big goal in this game, his 14th goal of the season in his 17th game. And as I mentioned earlier, it took till 32 games last season for Kyle to get his 14th goal. I don't know what else to do. I don't know if I should talk about the third period because nothing really much happened in that third period, though it did look like the Jets were tiring in that period. Bukestad had a good shot early in the period, but he rung it past Brossois, but it went off the post of the crossbar. And then it was Kyle Connor. I'm trying to think. The Kyle Connor got the 4-2 goal, a play started by a good back check by Mark Scheifele. Kyle Connor then would get the puck to Mark Scheifele. It's a 2-on-1 with Josh Morrissey, and Morrissey puts it away for his second goal of the season. He's getting most of his points, obviously, from the assist, but that was his second goal of the season. And I thought the key on this one was that Mark Scheifele didn't telegraph the fact that he was going to pass the puck. Too many times you've seen this season where the Jets kind of telegraph on those 2-on-1s that they're determined they're going to try and make a pass. Or in this case, Mark Scheifele with the coming in on the right-hand side. So he had his stick closer to the net. So he could have taken the shot. He wasn't looking over at Morrissey when he made the pass. And it was a perfect pass to Josh Morrissey. And he fired it into the net to make it 4-2 for the Jets. And Mason Appleton would seal it away with an empty net goal. And that was set up by Nino Niederreiter, his 8th assist of the season. Lowry also getting an apple on that one, and that was his 9th. I have to ask the people who are watching: is Dave still off, or am I just running the show by myself right now? I think I am. Oh, thank you. I'm running it. Well, I definitely want more than a 6-pack of Illegal Curve beer for this one. I'd love to show you some highlights. So a good effort. Hey, they were back.
I'm so mad right now. I was so frustrated, Joe. You don't
I want
understand.
more than a 6-pack.
Oh, you're getting like a flat now. This is ridiculous. I appreciate you doing that. That's like the worst nightmare of being on the internet, unfortunately, but holy moly. I turned off I'm putting Wi-Fi off. I'm turning the TV off. The fire's out. No fire, folks. I apologize to Joe. So embarrassing. This is now, and the worst part is, the worst part that I have to deal with is I'm gonna have to listen to Mindell go, this is why you need to tether. No Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is no good. Tether. So unfortunately, I screwed up.
All right.
Well, actually, I shouldn't. I screwed up. Shaw screwed up. / Rogers, whatever that stupid new entity is. It's not my fault, Joe. It's theirs.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Maybe I'm Reg. What? Reg is calling me a hoser. A flat is 24. What's he talking about? Unbelievable.
I don't know. So I talked about the goal by Morrissey. It started with a good back check by Scheifele.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
and we can't say enough about Mark Scheifele's play this year. It's been heartwarming for someone who's been so super critical of him in the past, as have others. It's heartwarming to see, his 200-foot game, right? He still has his moments, but they're so few and far between now. But his back check, resulted in the Coyotes turning the puck over, Kyle Connor getting it back to Mark Scheifele 2-on-1. And I said the key is that this time he didn't telegraph the pass.
Right.
Yeah. Too many times on these 2-on-1s, the Jets are just saying, we're passing. No matter what, we're going to pass that puck.
Yeah.
Instead of just shooting and then hoping for a rebound and the other player knocking it in. So I thought that was, and making mention that was only Morrissey's second goal of the season. He had way more last year at this point, did he not?
He may have, but he's been piling up the assists. So I mean, from a points perspective, he's still doing quite well. But you're right, he doesn't have as many goals. But which is interesting because again, last year the big thing was that the Rick Bowness wanted his defense to score more. He wanted, I think he said 44 at the beginning of during training camp. He wanted 44 goals from his defense. Brendan Dillon's trying to single-handedly give him that 44 goals, but that was, of course, the last year's training camp. He didn't set out a number as far as I can remember this training camp for what he wanted his defense to. Yeah, I don't think so. But ultimately, he still wants to get that production from the back end. But it's interesting, Joe, because during the summer when we talked about Mark Scheifele and we talked about the kind of player he could become, and again, like I said, I know it's ridiculous because it's easy to say that, but like, his thing was Steve Yzerman is his idol. And what did Steve Yzerman have to do? Steve Yzerman had to go from being an offensive forward who scored but didn't play defense to a much better defensive game. Now, Steve Yzerman also had the benefit of, a number of excellent players in those Detroit years. So, I mean, it wasn't like Steve Yzerman was doing it all by himself, but he became a much more well-rounded player. And Mark Scheifele is becoming a more well-rounded player. And It's a nice pass up to him by Kyle Connor, who, quickly transitions it up. And that's one of the things the Jets started to do a little bit better. But again, like you said, it was a bit slow throughout the course of this game, but he gets it up and you're right. He doesn't telegraph it, gets it over to Josh Morrissey, and Josh Morrissey buries it. And suddenly now you've got some wiggle room. You've got some breathing room, I should say. Yeah. And that for the Jets, especially, it's interesting because you expected, and it's always funny. And I've talked to players. I think I've talked to Brendan Dillon about this. You always talk to players about, and a back-to-back, when are your legs fresher? Are they fresher right at the beginning because you still got a little bit of, you're fine, and then they start to burn at the end? Or are they a little heavy at the beginning of the game, and by the end, you're starting to feel a little bit better? And I think he jokingly told me, depends on the score in the game. If we win the game, then I'll use however it works out. But, like I said, I always laugh because I'm like, well, which way do these guys look at it? But ultimately, you've now got that cushion, and more importantly, you're pushing, right? You're not sitting back on a 1-goal lead is not something you sit on anyways, but the Jets recognized an opportunity. And I thought Scheifele did this a number of times where he saw opportunity. I mean, it's even similar to when he took the Brendan Dillon pass and got it over to Kyle Connor that time, because he saw that in the neutral zone, scooped it, transitioned quick and got it over to Connor. And then similarly gets this pass, goes quickly the other way, Josh Morrissey. And again, this is that recognition, right? He knows that Scheifele's got that puck, and you just see Morrissey take off down the wall, and he's gone on that 2-on-1. So good on them. And again, now the Jets are feeling really rolling with that 4-2 lead.
Yeah, and comfortable, as you said. They were comfortable. I mean, the Coyotes, did push back, but the Jets, I don't think, again, Brossoit had anything really major to contend with.
No, and
And they're
I
making
thought
it
that.
too easy on the goalies.
Well,
you
it was
know,
funny, Joe, because that was what I thought. I actually said, like, he at one point I tweeted like he made a big and boring save, but I think they did that specifically because the defense was clearing the way, so Brossoit was able to see the puck. And it's obviously it's important for the defense to improve their play, and I thought that was important for the goaltenders. And Brossoit needed a good game. Like, he
yes.
didn't have to steal the game, of course, but you needed Laurent Brossoit, who, that's his second win in a Jets uniform, but he needed to feel good about a game, and he can feel good about that hockey game.
Well, and we needed to feel good about having him in goal because sometimes when he's in there, he doesn't exude a lot of confidence for fans, right? He just it's like a save is kind of like, whoa, well, that was lucky or that was
Well,
fortunate, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And
No,
that was for
you're
not counting the last game because I thought he played well in the last game too. But his earlier starts this season, right? He just didn't look sharp.
that's right.
Right. He just didn't look sharp. He didn't look confident in the goal. But in this game and in the previous game, yeah, there was a confidence. I wasn't like shaking every time the Coyotes crossed the blue line and they were going to let a shot go on Brossoit and he wasn't going to be able to make the save.
No, and like we're saying, I mean, you can't deny Perry saying LB was a pillar tonight. Come on, man. And I thought he was good. We're both saying that we thought he was good, but
But
I
he
think
didn't have to be extraordinary.
that's right.
He
Needed to make the saves he needed to make. And you'll, again, you credit him for that. And look, he doesn't have a chance on the Dumba goal. I mean, there's almost no chance for him to make that save. So again, I think he was good. And then the Jets salted away. Mason Appleton, Joe, and he's been phenomenal this season. 6 goals, already eclipsed his goal total from last year, which was 5 in 41 games. Now he's already got 6 in 17. And as I detailed on a little site called illegalcurve.com, you may have heard of it, he is on pace for 28 goals. His career high was 12 and 56. That was back in 2020-21. So again, whether it's Nino Niederreiter elevating that line and Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton being the beneficiary of having someone like Nino on that line is producing. And again, they salted away with the empty net goal.
Yeah. And, I was just thinking as you were talking about the third line there, I'd like to know in the 2.0, what is the record for the most goals by the third line players?
Ooh, that is a very
for the most part, the third line wasn't scoring.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question.
I could think.
Joe, you're the historian. You're supposed to know that kind of stuff. That's not a me question.
I just thought I'd have to research about the Tanev, Lowry, and Kopp line when they were a unit.
Yeah.
They would pop in the goals too. So
yeah, it'll be interesting. Actually, it's a good one to look up for sure.
There's your homework.
All right.
for the next.
All right. Well, hey, someone in the chat made we have a great audience and we want to thank you for joining Joe and I here on the Illegal Curve post game show. We've gone a little long because unfortunately the internet went out and Joe had to, but let's be realistic, folks. Joe's a professional, and whether he's talking in tandem or he's doing it solo, the Joe Pascucci experience, you've experienced the Drew Mandel experience. That was a letdown. The Joe Pascucci experience, that was a let up. Wow. So it sounds like you got a lot of folks who were cheering you on while I was furiously trying to get my internet connected to my phone and worrying about all this other stuff. But, anyways, Jets go on to salt it away, end up winning it 5-2. And again, like I said, a lot of good things, but most importantly, they end the homestand 4-1-0. And they're 5-1-0 against Central. That's also something that, again, the one loss is to Dallas, and they'll have to play Colorado still. But, you want to do the damage against your opponents within your division. And the Jets are similar to what they did last year, having success against the Central. So that's going to be key for this team moving forward. And again, like I said, they're on brand with what they were able to do last year. And we're trying to be on brand here, Joe. Sorry, I called you Drew by accident for a second there.
That's okay.
But again, like I said, I'm flustered. I mean, who knows what's going on here, Joe? This is it's all new.
Well, the Avs won tonight over the Stars 6-3.
The Avs won.
The Avs won. They scored 4 goals in the third period.
I was like,
Ratton. Wow. So Nikushkin scored to tie it at 4:19.
Yeah.
And then it just collapsed there. Ratnan scored at 14:32, and then Cogliano at 14:43.
Wow.
So 11 seconds later. 2 goals in 11 seconds. And then there was an empty net goal by Colton.
Isn't that interesting? So that means that I believe that means that the Jets then are not jumping ahead of Colorado because they think they both have 22 points. I could be wrong.
You are correct. Yes. Dallas with 23,
yeah,
16 games. Colorado with 22, 16 games. The Jets with 22 points in 17 games. And Arizona with 18 points on 17 games.
Right. So good win for the Jets to, give themselves some distance between themselves and the Coyotes. That's 2 wins against Arizona the last couple of weeks. And again, like I said, keeping pace with the Dallas and Colorados of the NHL. All right, Joe, we're going to head to a break, our first one and our only one here on the Illegal Curve postgame show. We will be back after these words from our sponsors.
Your coworkers love you because you always make them laugh. You're the life of the party with stories that have them rolling on the floor. Or maybe you're just the quiet one in the corner with the one-liners that just slay. Do you have what it takes to become Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job? Try your luck. Hit the stage at Rumors Comedy Club, and you could be walking away with $1,000 cash. Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job. Presented by Rumors. For all the details, head to rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal, starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
The game can change just like that. Accidents happen when you aren't protected. So now what? Getting to your injury quickly can make all the difference. Help prevent them from being game changers with Linden Market Dental Center. Bonding, crowns, bridges, and dental implants. State-of-the-art treatments are available to help you get back in the game. To learn more, visit lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to test if the game is better at home or at Boston Pizza. The results are irrefutable. Catch the game at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
Are you dreaming of your very own backyard rink this winter, but dreading the work involved? Well, stress no longer, because the Rink Guys are here to make it happen. The Rink Guys are Winnipeg's first outdoor skating rink installation and rink maintenance service. The Rink Guys offer free site evaluations and different rink construction options. Plus, they use a custom-sized liner to prevent any damage to your lawn. Lighting packages are also available to help illuminate your rink during those long, dark winter nights. To get your rink started today, visit therinkguys.com. For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve postgame show, and I'm still here, Joe, so that's a good sign that we returned from commercial break, and I am still here. I'm Dave Manouk. He is Joe Pascucci. You were living the Joe Pascucci experience for a little brief period of time. If you were with us a little bit earlier, hopefully you were. Hopefully you've been with us for the course of this broadcast. You started your day with the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. You're ending your day with the Illegal Curve post-game show, unless you go to Kenny and Rennie, which will be on after us, or they may already be on. Who knows? Those guys sometimes jump ahead.
We're the buffet, they're the dessert.
Exactly. Although Weber's the one who's always going to the buffet. And once, Drew literally, he talks so much. Drew actually now has a sign that says the buffet is closed. And that's his sign for getting off. The show's got to be done. Now, Joe, what I'm going to have to do is I have to give, I forgot there's so much going on. Got to give the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. So we're going to award that before we start talking about the Grey Cup here on this show.
The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
Not doing this because this person bought Illegal Curve beer and is having it shipped to Saskatoon, but I'm also not doing it because of that reason. But the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment goes to 7JP7B, who says, "It's the Joe Show. We will all remember this. Poor Dave, he must be freaking out." I was. I love the show more now. You never doubt it is a live entity. So not necessarily related to the hockey game that we watched earlier, Joe, but it is related to the stress that I just underwent by thinking that not only did I invite you to be a guest on this show, somehow I have left you in charge of the show.
That's never a good thing.
Well, I'd be fine with it. But the problem was you don't even have access to end the show. So if I couldn't have gotten back on, our show would have been live until I would have been able to get a hold of Drew or Ezzy. So that could have been a catastrophe. So 7JP7B, in addition to your Illegal Curve beer, you're going to get a Tough Duck toque from our friends at Tough Duck. So be sure to send us a email, dave@illegalcurve.com, or slide into my DMs. I see Dave, give me your name, number, not number. Sorry, I'm still used to doing the Moose giveaway, Joe. But if you can give us your name and your address, we'll get you a Tough Duck toque shipped out. As he sent his to Australia, his choice in the last post-game show, although I found out that I can now actually send it to St. Catharines because that's where the winner's father lives. So we're going to send it to St. Catharines, Joe, save on shipping instead of sending it to Australia. But 7JP7B is going to be going to Saskatoon. So it's a little closer to Manitoba, a little easier to ship it out there than Australia. But congratulations on the win, nonetheless. Okay, well, we've talked about the Jets, and the Jets, like I said, they're off till Monday, and then they probably will skate. I assume they'll practice Monday, Tuesday, and then fly on Tuesday to Florida, where they're going to start off their 3-game road trip against the Panthers and Lightning. So they'll reluctantly head south, although it's been beautiful here, Joe. Plus 6 today. Didn't even need to wear a jacket today, Joe. It was beautiful here in Winnipeg and around the province of Manitoba. The grass is so green, folks are actually thinking about still cutting their lawn. That's how nice it's been. But anyways, let's get to the Grey Cup. You're the expert. Yeah. You know a lot more than I do. So what are your thoughts on the Grey Cup, which is going tomorrow? At this time, we'll know who the Grey Cup champion is. But obviously, you got the hat on for the folks in the chat. Well, folks who are listening on the podcast, what are your thoughts?
This is a game the Bombers should win and better win, right? Okay. But here's some things that worry me, right? The last 2 years they've played in Hamilton has been some of this team's worst performances.
Okay.
Right. So I'm a little worried about that. The fact that, Montreal has a really good defense and they're very opportunistic. We saw that against the Bombers earlier this season at IG Field when they had those 2 pick sixes. It wasn't Zach's best game. And we definitely saw that against Toronto in the Eastern Final. But we also know that the Bombers have a very good defense. The Bombers haven't always played their best in the Grey Cup game. I would say that 2 years ago, they should have lost that game to the Tiger Cats that went to overtime. I mean, if that player does not concede the single point on the kickoff, right? Hamilton is kicking a chip shot field goal to win the Grey Cup, not just tie the game.
Right.
So I think the defense has to step up. We don't know the health, of course, of Big Hill, but I suspect he's probably not going to play.
Yeah, it sounds like those guys and Sean aren't playing. From the sounds of it, it sounds like it's as Drew was saying, a little subterfuge.
Yeah, I just think that the defense has to really step up again tomorrow. Don't give Montreal any life, right? And Zach Collaros has got to, finish off some drives. I don't like when Buck Pierce gets cute with his offensive play calling, when Caleros drives the team down the field, they're inside the 6-yard line, and then he brings Pruk up on there to hand the ball off. Like, why?
Yeah.
Zach can easily hand the ball off. Don't get cute. Let Zach finish the drive. He's the more experienced quarterback. Unless it's on the 1-yard line, then yeah, sure, bring Prukop in. So I think that the Bombers should win this one. They should win this handily. My only fear is that if it's a close game, the longer that it's a close game, I don't think that's very good for the Bombers. That gives Montreal some confidence. And I think they should snuff out any confidence that the Alouettes may have before halftime.
Sorry, Joe had a cough. I didn't want to cough in your ear, but we'll see. I mean, again, it really does sound like it's going to be a defensive contest between these two teams, and obviously not having a top receiver for the Bombers is going to be a difficulty. I'm not going to pretend to know much about it because I keep my eyes and ears focused mostly on the Jets and mostly on the Moose. So like I said, it's one of the times I can cheer. I can cheer for the Bombers as a Winnipegger and hope that they have success. So again, like I said, we'll see what I'm not even going to make a prediction
but they do have Kenny Lawler. So, I mean, that makes
true.
up for Sean, and Kenny Lawler is just an outstanding receiver. And I think he's going to have a big game. And of course they get Brady Oliveira running the football, then it's done.
Yeah. Well, and we'll see, you can tell he wants to, really put his mark on this team and show what he has been doing all season long and why he's been such an exceptional talent. Of course, a homegrown talent as a Winnipegger. So a lot of pride on the line. And again, like 4 straight Grey Cups for this Bomber team. And it's remarkable what they've been able to do. Would you quickly, before we head out, and let everybody get the rest of their Saturday night going, but would you qualify this team as a dynasty, Joe?
If they win, yes. This will be, it'll be another great era of Bomber football, right up there with the Bud Grant era. But Bud Grant era right now, still number 1. This one is 1B.
Well, I think you're a 1A in my books, Joe Pascucci. You were A+, for, joining us. We're going to send you some Illegal Curve beer as the least we can do for joining us here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. 2 weeks in a row, and not only did you join us, you led it. You were running the show, and you did a great job. So thank you for joining us. I'm sure everyone in the chat loved hearing from you and loved sharing some of some of your stories, and again seeing some of your videos. So make sure you're following Joe Pascucci because again he's a wealth of knowledge and video for Jets 1.0. So if you're a fan of the Jets from the 80s and the 90s, Joe's probably got a video of it, and he'll eventually use that video on his Twitter account. So make sure you're standing with Joe. You're sorry, I saw Phyllis's comment. Standing O for Joe. So Joe, the chat is happy with you, Joe, and they appreciate it. Like I said, you're a legend. I told my mom that Joe Pascucci is doing the show with me. My mom was like, "You're going to be on the show with Joe Pascucci?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "I go, we're friends with Joe," and she goes, "Wow." And I was like, "Mom, Mom, we're not too bad." So my mom was very excited for you to be on the show, Joe, and as are the rest of our chat. So thank you very much for joining us. Thanks everyone in the chat for joining us here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Thanks to our sponsors. You know who they are, and I'm too lazy to pull up the list. But thanks to all of our sponsors for supporting this show, because if it wasn't for them and wasn't for you, we wouldn't have a show. So, hold on. Sorry. You know what? See, Joe, even when I'm too lazy, Frosty isn't. So I'm going to thank our sponsors: Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Linden Market Dental Center, Farmery Beer, which coincidentally is the home of the Illegal Curve Lager, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, Tough Duck, Boston Pizza, Seagram's, Rollies Transfer, and the Rink Guys. Support our fine sponsors because they support us here at Illegal Curve Hockey.
Yeah.
Okay, that's enough for us. We're going to let you get your Saturday night going. Joe, enjoy his Saturday night out in Toronto. We're going to enjoy the rest of our Saturday night here in Manitoba. Smash that like button before you head out, and we will be back on Wednesday night. I can't remember the time exactly. The game probably starts at 6, so around 8:45, probably around the same time we started this show. And of course, illegalcurve.com will have all the latest Jets and Moose news. I'm not doing a Moose recap because Moose stunk today. They lost 7-2. So that's your Moose minute. It's very brief. The Moose weren't very good. Nikita Chibrikov, the Jets 21 second rounder. He scored a goal. Chaz Lucius didn't play load management. Sorry, Joe. I guess I am giving a Moose minute very briefly. And they're back in action. They're playing 3-3. So they're actually going to be in action in Toronto tomorrow as they try and get things back on track. So we'll see what happens with the Moose. But anyways, regardless, we'll have all of that on our website, illegalcurve.com. So thanks very much for joining us. I'm Dave Minuk. He's Joe Pascucci. This has been the Illegal Curve postgame show.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow @IllegalCurve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.